The Iowa State Bar Association's Rural Practice Committee has developed a summer clerkship program that matches 1L and 2L law students from the law schools at Creighton, Drake, and Iowa with rural practitioners. The goal of the program is to give students a feel for practicing in a rural area in the hopes that they'll consider rural practice when they graduate. It is widely known that the number of new attorneys who are willing to move to rural areas has declined in the past decades. Unless the trend is reversed, many small towns and less populated counties will not have resident attorneys. Garner, Iowa attorney Phil Garland is chair of the ISBA's Rural Practice Committee and is leading the charge to prevent the extinction of the small town attorney by not only heading the program, but by leading by example and taking a law student under his wing.
My good friend Marion James always said that the Iowa Bar Association was his mentor, and I feel the same way, so kind of a way for me to educate either how to do things or how not to do things. I thought, well, maybe I should have somebody try the program myself, and frankly I'd never had a law clerk, and I had a lot of stuff to try and catch up on, and I thought that would help.
That help came in the form of a second-year law student from the University of Iowa named Kay Oskvig.
I really didn't have any expectation of working in a small town this summer. I had offers from other places that I was considering, and when Phil called me to interview, I thought, well, you know, it's over spring break. It sounds like, you know, he was a nice guy. I remember talking to him. He seemed very passionate about his practice. And when I came up to interview, I was very impressed with how many opportunities I would have to have hands-on experience.
She did a lot more shadowing than what I think law clerks generally do.
I've drafted interrogatories, petitions, probate inventories, title opinions. I've sat in on client meetings, which I think is another really valuable thing. It's not just occasionally, it's every day. I think that's been one of the advantages for me, is that I really have gotten to see a whole breadth of issues on individual clients.
She's worked very well filling in lots of gaps, got some stuff cleaned up that should have been cleaned up about 6 or 8 months ago, so I'm thankful for that.
Two other solo practitioners thankful for the assistance of the law students are Britt, Iowa attorney Earl Hill and Shenandoah attorney G. Rawson Stevens. For Earl, his participation in the program opened up options for him and his practice.
Phil asked me what my retirement plans were, and I said I didn't have any. And Phil said, that's not an answer. What are your retirement plans? So I gave him, if I had a wish that would come true, I gave him a kind of an idea of the type of person I was looking for. And about 2 weeks later, Phil called me and said, I've got the answer to your dreams.
The answer was third-year University of Iowa law student Kelsey Hollingshead. Kelsey had contacted Phil to express her wish to practice in a rural community.
I've always wanted to be in a small town. It's basically what attracted me to Britt in the first place when Phil told me, you know, there might be an opening here, a chance here. Growing up in Eagle Grove, I just really liked the community, and so I wasn't looking for a job in Cedar Rapids or Des Moines or Chicago. And when he threw this idea out for Earl, I just kind of grabbed it and ran with it.
And Kelsey hit the floor running.
Well, I told Kelsey from the day she walked in, or from the day of actually the day of the interview, I said, you're going to start from day one doing the things that I do. I said, you'll be examining abstracts, you'll be meeting with the clients, you'll be opening probate estates, you'll be administering the estates along with the executors and so forth. And that's the way it's been. There has been no training period other than on-the-job type training.
I've learned more practical experience in the last 2 or 3 months than I've learned in my life. I mean, Earl commonly or often tells me that I am doing exactly what he would be doing, except with him peering over my shoulder, making sure I'm doing everything right as a lawyer.
Rawson Stevens sees the benefits not only for him, but for other Iowa attorneys who have been involved in the practice of law for years.
I think the benefit to the attorneys that wish to take advantage of this opportunity is that I think it can energize their own practice. It is nice to get young people involved that you can both show the ropes to as well as learn a few new tricks from. And I think that so many of the older attorneys, including myself, get into a groove of chugging out the work without much fun.
I think there's a lot of aging attorneys who probably worry about who are they going to be able to to hand over their practice to or sell their practice to. So if you could, work with them for a couple of years and really kind of try and learn as much as you can from them, and then, yeah, that would be, I think that's a great opportunity.
If the practice that I have developed or created over my 40 years of practice is worth carrying on, why maybe some aspiring attorney or law student would see a benefit to going into an established practice and enhancing it.
An attorney interested in the program may wonder, how much do I pay the intern and how do I bill their hours? For each attorney, it differs.
We are paying her $15 an hour. I talked to Phil, and Phil said he thought that was appropriate. That's what we're paying her, is $15 an hour. I believe we're billing her hours out at about $90 an hour. Many hours, of course, that she works that we can't bill out. But those are things that I would be doing anyway, such as putting together a probate inventory. And so those are not things that I charge by the hour by. I just don't think that we have had much of a problem as far as costing us money to have her here. No question there's a cost, but it's very minimal as far as I'm concerned.
I've billed her out at zero and had projects and kind of included in her time when I bill a client, when it's a client that's a little bit more downtrodden and doesn't have the money, and as much as $40 or $50 an hour. And some things, like I say, she cleaned up a bunch of closings that we had. There were just a lot of issues there, and getting final issues from title guarantee and things of that nature. And those were some things that had been languishing since about February. And she kept track of her time there, and that was just invaluable for me. So not necessarily that I would bill out, but again, very labor intensive for me, so she saved me a lot of time in doing that.
Another question might be, where is the intern going to live during their internship? For each attorney, it differs.
Phil arranged for housing for me, which was very nice for this summer. A lot of students I know are living with family members, or they're staying with other attorneys in small towns. I think that there's options for students as they look. Maybe they have family or friends of the family who live there. They might reach out to the County Bar Association to see if there's an attorney who would be willing to put them up for half the summer or so. And otherwise, I think instead of renting a small apartment, like in Des Moines or Chicago, you might be renting an entire house, which is where I'm living this summer.
Rawson has set me up with a house that he owns that nobody was living in. It's out in the country, so it's 10 miles away, but it's not. But it's a huge house, and I haven't been charged any rent, so it's worked out really well for me.
Some may wonder how bringing in an intern affects the office dynamics. For Earl, this was not an issue.
I have an office manager that has been here for almost 30 years. I did not want to lose her, and when she was the one that said, this is the one for us, then at that point in time I became very interested in making an offer to Kelsey to come for the summer. Neither my office manager nor I have regretted that decision, and so that makes everything a lot smoother in the office if you know that the other people in the office are also accepting of it.
So what do these three rural practitioners think of the program?
To have an influence upon someone's life is a pretty valuable thing, both for them as well as for the individual that they're influencing.
I think this is a good way for all of us to be a little more hands-on mentor with students coming out at a pretty nominal cost, and it's nice to have somebody to talk to, like a solo person like myself, and share things with.
I think it's an excellent program. I applaud Phil and all the people down at the Bar Association that have helped put this thing together. Without Phil, I would not have had the summer help. I wasn't actively looking for anyone, and yet now that I've had the experience, and particularly based upon having a very good one, I would not hesitate again to go back into the marketplace if I need to.